Welcome, friends. I am Kurt Van Pelt, Road Safety Specialist for the Nebraska Safety Council. Today we will be discussing several topics referring to impaired driving. We will be discussing how impaired driving affects us, our driving, and the people around us. When you first hear the topic impaired driving, what do we most often think of? Yes, maybe we most often think of someone driving under the influence of alcohol, liquor, and/or drugs. But our driving could be impaired in various ways by various activities, and that's what we will be discussing in this presentation. Here are the topics of discussion for today. In this distracted driving presentation, we will cover aggressive driving, cell phone safety, the use and safety of seat belts, drowsy driving, and drugs and alcohol. Have you ever had one of those days when nothing seems to go right? And hopefully you're having a better day than the pedestrian pictured here. And some of you may not be here because of your own choice, but hopefully it won't be as painful as this, and you'll actually get something out of it that you didn't know prior to this presentation. But as we're driving distracted, it will not only affect us, but it will also affect the people around us. The people around us could include our passengers, other drivers, and pedestrians. But the ones that it may affect even more are the people not even involved in the collision. The collision will be also affecting family, friends, and co-workers of each person involved in the collision. So what am I doing here? Your company knows that you are a very valuable asset to their team. That is why I am here presenting to you today. According to statistics, you will be involved in several collisions throughout your lifetime. And with this information here, hopefully it'll help you walk away from your next collision or even prevent another collision. How will collisions affect you as an employer, employee, or a family member? As an employer, you will have to reassign workloads to other employees. How will this go over when their workload is already at a maximum? So it will burden other employees, maybe even to the point of burnout. This may even cause the loss of good employees. When your employee is not there to accomplish their work, who is going to do it? How will it get done? Will your company lose funding or lose income? Now, according to the National Highway Safety Traffic Institute, in 2019, motor vehicle crash fatalities and/or injuries on and off the job cost employers $72 billion. Then how about as an employee? You only have a certain number of vacation days and/or sick days. So what happens then? You'll have a loss of income for you and your family. How will you pay your bills? Not being able to pay your bills will be a major mental strain. You will have enough pain healing from the discomforts of your collision, but now add to it when you're not able to pay your bills. That will be a major strain mentally, physically, on you and your family. When will the electricity get shut off? When will the water get shut off? How are you going to pay your grocery bill? When will they repossess your vehicles? Then how will your spouse get to work if they have no vehicle? How will your spouse get you to your doctor appointments with no vehicle? How will your family pick up the groceries that you cannot even afford if you have no vehicle? It then seems like everything is caving in around you. And that's the last thing you need to worry about when you're trying to heal from a collision. Your family will also be going through all these financial strain, mental strain, and physical strain along with you. They will then also have the physical strain of not having you around, and they must take up your workload around the house. So a collision does not only affect the people who are involved in the collision. As you can see, it also affects your family, friends, and co-workers. So whether it's employees, employers, co-workers, family, friends, or loved ones, you are valuable to each of them. They want you to walk away from your next collision, or better yet, prevent a collision. Distracted driving is the other impaired driving. Think of all the different things that we see other drivers do while they're operating their motor vehicle. When is our vehicle transformed into our kitchen? After going through a drive-through, are we tempted to eat and drink while we're driving? Do we turn our vehicle into a personal bathroom? Now, I can honestly say I have never seen anyone lathering up for a shave, but I have seen people using an electric shaver while driving. Or we might see people combing their hair or flossing their teeth in the rearview mirror. How about turning our vehicle into a neighborhood bar? New laws were passed during COVID-19 that would allow drive-through alcohol. This law is still in place for this activity. Are we tempted to drink alcohol beverages while driving? Then there is transferring our vehicle into the living room. Are we getting too comfortable in our vehicle? Are we tempted to take or make phone calls while driving? Are these phone calls really necessary, or can they wait until we arrive at our destination? Can we find a safe location to pull into for making a phone call? And despite what we may have heard, hands-free devices are not any safer to use while driving. Even though we can keep both hands on the wheel, we're not able to keep our minds on the road and on our driving. While taking a phone call, our mind is still in another place other than driving. Did you know that motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of on-the-job fatalities? Every 38 hours, somebody dies in a vehicle crash. That's 238 deaths on Nebraska roads in 2020. And that number increased in 2022 to 254 deaths on Nebraska roads. Every 18 minutes, an injury crash occurs. About 14,100 people were injured in Nebraska in 2020. That's approximately 39 people injured every day on Nebraska roadways. And then the economic loss for Nebraskans is $967,200,000 $289 loss due to injury, property damage, productivity, and time off work. In Nebraska, the seatbelt law is a secondary offense. There are 15 states that have the seatbelt law as a secondary offense, and 34 states have it as a primary offense. Of the deaths in 2015, 191 people died. Almost 17,000 were injured in crashes. Of these deaths, 26% were wearing safety belts. 74% were not wearing safety belts. And of that 74% not wearing safety belts, 37% of them were thrown from the vehicle. On average, the medical charges for unseated Nebraska drivers were $10,700 more than for belted drivers. Overall, motor vehicle crashes cost Nebraskans over $839,549 in 2015. So the strategies to increase seatbelt use. States with primary enforcement of seatbelt laws have a median of 9% higher seatbelt usage rate. In Nebraska, if 12% more motor vehicle occupants were belted, an additional 11 lives could have been saved per year. Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, their study from 2006 to 2010 found that if everyone wore seat belts, approximately 299 lives could have been saved, and 3,835 moderate to severe injuries could have been prevented. Nebraska law states that a driver and all front seat occupants and all persons under the age of 18 must wear a seat belt and wear it properly. All persons being transported by a motor vehicle that is operated by an operator that holds a provisionary operator's permit or a school permit must use a seat belt and wear it properly. Now, with the law being a secondary law, that means that the driver must be pulled over for a separate violation and then may be cited for the seatbelt violation. A seatbelt violation results in a $25 fine, and 1 point is accumulated towards their operator's license. Nebraska is one of 15 states that enforces the seatbelt law as a secondary action. So what is distracted driving? Distracted driving is the act of driving while engaging in any activity that takes our eyes, hands, and/or minds away from the act of driving. Texting is the most prevalent with today's drivers. Everyone has a cell phone that gives us many notifications throughout our day. Our cell phones provide us with so many uses that we commonly get distracted by them throughout our day. It has become part of our routine activities to the point that we have a hard time setting it aside so it does not distract us from our daily activities. Any activity that takes our eyes, hands, and mind off road and off our driving is a very dangerous activity. Sending or reading a text takes your eyes off the road for approximately 5 seconds. Traveling at 55 miles an hour, this is like driving the length of an entire football field with our eyes closed. So here are some more examples of distracted driving. Talking or texting on the phone that we just talked about, but then also eating and drinking, applying makeup or shaving, combing our hair, flossing our teeth, reading a newspaper or book, watching a video while driving, or programming a GPS while we are driving. Distracted driving is very dangerous. It claimed 3,142 lives in the United States in 2020. Okay, so we have the three types of distractions. The first distraction is the manual distraction. That takes our hands off the steering wheel. That could be using a cell phone, reaching for an object, or smoking and vaping. Then we have the visual distractions. Those are the distractions that take our eyes off the road. That could be looking at our cell phone, reading a GPS, looking to your passengers, or looking at the view out the window. Then we have the cognitive distractions that take our mind off driving and off the roadway. That could be talking to passengers or a cell phone, daydreaming, thinking about work or personal issues, or reading something on your handheld device. Is it okay if our pets ride on our lap? Well, how many distractions could this be? It could be a manual distraction that takes our hands off the wheel, and it could be a visual distraction by taking our eyes off the road. And it could also include a cognitive distraction by taking our mind off the road and off driving. With all these distractions, it would be about as safe as if we let our pet do the driving for us. So who else is on the roadway with us? Those drivers are tempted by the same distractions as we are. We cannot control what the other driver does. We can only control what we do as the driver. So who else is out there with us? In the past 30 days, 2 in 3 drivers have talked on their cell phones. 3 in 10 have drove while drowsy. More than 1 in 3 have run a red light. 1 in 4 drivers have sent an email or text. And 1 in 3 have read an email or a text. Now, a couple myths that we have heard is that we can multitask while driving. Contrary to popular belief, the human brain cannot multitask. Driving and talking on a cell phone are 2 thinking tasks that involve many areas of the brain. Instead of processing both simultaneously, the brain rapidly switches between 2 cognitive activities. Take the classic example of the act of walking and chewing gum at the same time. There is a common misconception that because people appear to simultaneously do both, that they can just as easily talk on their cell phone and drive in a safe manner. The truth is that walking and chewing gum involves a thinking task and a non-thinking task. Conversation and driving are both thinking tasks. The second myth is talking to someone on a cell phone is no different than talking to someone in the car. A 2008 study cited by the University of Utah found that drivers distracted by cell phones are more oblivious to changing traffic conditions because the driver is the only one in the conversation who is aware of the roadway. In contrast, drivers with adult passengers in their cars have an extra set of eyes and ears to help the driver be alert of oncoming traffic problems. Adult passengers also tend to adjust their talking when traffic is challenging. People on the other end of the driver's cell phone cannot do that. Multitasking while driving is a myth. The human brain cannot handle two thinking tasks at the same time, such as driving and talking on the phone. Quickly toggling between thinking tasks can slow the reaction time and cause crashes. Be safe by silencing your phone, programming your GPS, and setting up your radio or music before you start to drive. Texting is the new drunk driving, but it's worse. We're 23 times more likely to be involved in a motor vehicle crash when texting and driving. The level of risk of having an accident is on the rise. We're 9 times more likely to be involved in a motor vehicle crash when reaching for something off the floor, behind the seat, in your purse, etc. An average of 4,566 Nebraska drivers were involved in a distracted driving crash over the past 5 years. Hands-free devices don't eliminate that cognitive distraction. So now here's a multitasking exercise to see how well you can multitask. First of all, you start with reciting the letters A through L as fast as you can go. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. That's pretty easy. You can do that pretty fast. Now recite the numbers 1 through 19 as fast as you can go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Easy. It's not hard to do at all. But now, let's try multitasking. Recite the letters and numbers in correct order, starting with A1, B2, C3, as fast as you can go. Now, which one takes more brain power? The two, where we're multitasking between the alphabet and the numbers. Makes it a little bit more difficult because we're using two thinking tasks at the same time. Driving while being drowsy can affect our reaction time and how well we drive. For the safety of ourselves and others, losing 2 hours of sleep has the same effect on driving as having 3 beers. You are 3 times more likely to be in a car crash if you are fatigued. And 20% of fatal vehicle collisions are due to drowsy driving. So here are some signs of driver fatigue. It's when you have the inability to focus your eyes, keeping your heads up, and your eyelids feel heavy. Maybe you're yawning and rubbing your eyes. You have wandering and confused thoughts. You're drifting within the lane, missing signs and exits. You may be turning up the radio and or rolling down the windows. You now have a slower reaction time. So what can we do so that we're not a drowsy driver? We can try to exercise regularly and have a healthy, balanced diet. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Avoid driving alone when possible. Our passengers can help us watch traffic, communicate with us, help keep us awake. And then try to take a break every 2 hours or every 100 miles. Maybe get out, stretch, walk around the vehicle, push-ups, jumping jacks, something to raise the heart rate, get some fresh air. Avoid alcohol or medication that might impair our driving. And keep our passenger compartment cool and ventilated. And if necessary, pull over and take a power nap, but no longer than 15 to 20 minutes, because that can make us kind of groggy for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So those are a few things that we can do to keep from being a drowsy driver. It can help us stay awake, raise our heart rate, get fresh air. Those are a variety of things to help keep us awake while operating a motor vehicle. Because if we're driving while drowsy, that can be as bad as being intoxicated by alcohol, liquor, or drugs. What other ways do we need to think about driving safely? Number one, we should store our gear properly. We should store those loose items in proper compartments so they don't roll around in the vehicle. And then we're tempted to reach for loose items as they roll around, which could be very hazardous to our driving. Then number two, make all adjustments before hitting the road. Before we put our car in motion, we want to make that vehicle fit us. Maybe adjust the seat so we're comfortable. Check our mirrors, side mirrors, rear view mirrors, so they're adjusted so it reduces our blind spots. Then set the climate control, set the GPS, and get all that set up before we put our vehicle into motion. Then number three, we want to get organized. Driving with clutter all over our vehicle is just a recipe for distractions. We should organize our paperwork and properly store electronic devices before heading out on the road. So here are some basic driving techniques. Aim high while driving. By meaning this, we're looking ahead several seconds in front of us so that we can prepare what we might be approaching. Keep our eyes moving. We're constantly moving our eyes from the left roadway to the right and back and forth. No matter if we're in a business zone, out on the highway, or in a residential zone, we're always watching for hazards that might be entering our roadway from the right or left side. And get the big picture. We want to be aware of all the traffic around us, checking our rear view mirror, our side mirrors, in front and behind, watching for any hazards that we might be approaching. And then leave yourself an out. We want a space cushion between us and the vehicles or anything along the roadway that could be a hazard. And then make sure they can see you. All vehicles have blind spots. And no matter how we adjust our mirrors, we're going to have blind spots. But our mirrors, if they are adjusted properly, they do reduce the size of our blind spots. As we're approaching a vehicle from the rear, if we cannot see them in their mirror, they cannot see us. So the larger the vehicle, the larger their blind spots might be. So we want to always be visible to that driver so they are aware that we are behind them or to their side. And remember, 93% of motor vehicle crashes are due to human error. Safety is not an accident. So we cannot control what other drivers do, but we can control what we do. You have to take a specific action to be a safe driver. So here's your sign. To be a safe driver, we can do the following. We can buckle up, put our phone down, focus on the road, keep both hands on the wheel at all times, get more sleep so we are alert, don't drink and drive, and always be prepared for the worst. Seatbelt safety. As we talked about earlier, motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of on-the-job fatalities. We all know that wearing seatbelt saves lives and prevents serious injury. Many of our rural fatalities are the result of roadway departure crashes, and that's where vehicles run off the road and collide with a fixed or solid object, such as trees, poles, or rails. Now, we may often think that collisions are more apt to occur in urban areas because there's more people and more vehicles on the roadway. But in Nebraska, the majority of our road fatalities are in the urban areas. As you can see here, airbags do not keep us from being thrown from the vehicle. Airbags are deployed only once, and that is upon the first impact. The airbags reduce injury from us being slammed into the steering wheel, the front dash, side doors and windows, but it does not keep us from flying outside the vehicle. If we're thrown from the vehicle, the chances are increased that we will have injury or it may turn into a fatality. So we need to be wearing seat belts in order to keep us within the vehicle to reduce the injury. Now on this current slide, you will see the seat belt usage rates as of year 2020. The columns that are in green are the states that the seat belt law is a primary offense. And in the yellow columns, those are the states that are a secondary violation. And then in red, the one state that has no seatbelt law at all. But as you look to the low end, South Dakota being the lowest usage rate, then Nebraska is the fourth from the lowest. So of all the states, we rank fourth from the lowest for the use of seat belts. So as we saw on the previous slide, that Nebraska in 2020 had 81% of usage rate for their seat belts. Now this means that 19% reported that they do not buckle up at all. Now 74% of motor vehicle fatalities are in the rural areas. Rural fatality rate is more than 2 times higher than in the urban locations. Seat belts, when used, reduce the risk of fatal injury to front seat car passengers by 45% and truck occupants by 60%. Now, just because we're the most perfect driver, we follow the rules and regulations of the road, that doesn't mean we won't be in a collision. We cannot control what other drivers do. We can only control what we do. The question is not if we're going to be in a collision. It is more so as to when are we going to be in a collision. Again, to cover the Nebraska seatbelt law, it states that the driver, the front seat passenger, and any persons under the age of 18 must be seat belted in at all times. Everyone in the vehicle also needs to wear a seat belt if the driver is using a learner's permit or a school permit. And in Nebraska, the seatbelt law is a secondary offense, which means we must first be pulled over for a primary violation, and then we can be cited for the seatbelt violation. The seatbelt violation has a fine of $25, plus it is also considered a moving violation, so 1 point would be accumulated on our driver's license. So even though we're being a safe driver, we cannot control what the other drivers do. we can still be in a collision. And our vehicle may not even be in motion, as we can see here. Now this slide shows the number of fatalities per year and the number of fatality crashes since 2005 to 2021. Now in 2022, we had a higher rate of traffic fatalities than we have over the last 15 years. It ranks right up there with the year 2007. And now in 2022, we have 254 fatalities in that year. So here are the three primary causes of collisions. We have the driver's behavior, the environmental conditions, which is the weather, roadway, and other road users, and the vehicle conditions, meaning our brakes, tires, and steering. Your children are your most prized possession, and your children are always watching you, what you say, what you do, how you act or react, and they want to mimic you because you are their role models. Now, in situations where the driver buckled up, the kids buckled up 92% of the time because they are watching their parents and the adults in the vehicle. But when drivers were operating their vehicle unbuckled, the kids then were 64% of the time also unbuckled. The people who are involved in the collision are not the only people that are affected by the collision. The people that are affected by the collision could be your coworkers, family, friends, and loved ones. They are counting on you to buckle up so that you are there to tuck your kids into bed at night. So you are there to help your coworkers work through the day. These people count on you to buckle up. We may often hear of road rage or aggressive driving. So what is aggressive driving? According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, aggressive driving can be defined as the following: when individuals commit a combination of moving traffic offenses so as to endanger other persons or property. Here are some examples of aggressive driving. It could be speeding, racing, frequently changing lanes, cutting off other drivers, failing to signal, running a red light, failing to yield, tailgating, or slowing rapidly to discourage a tailgater, often what we call as giving a brake check, or boxing other cars in, and or using other intimidation maneuvers. Now I want to introduce you to Jackie Savarito. She was born and grew up in Venezuela. Then she moved to Texas to be a college student in the United States. A very beautiful young lady with a bright future planned for her. And then the other person I want to introduce you is Reggie Steffi, who is a senior at Lake Travis High School near Austin. He had just played baseball and football, and college was in his future. Both of these two had a bright future planned. They look no different than any other high school student or someone entering college. But then their life changed. Even though they had never met each other before, both of their lives were about to change. Reggie Steffi had gone from the football field on a Friday night to the next day a prisoner in jail. Reggie Steffi will never forgive himself for what he did to Jackie Severito. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and fined a $20,000 fine. Not only did he ruin Jackie's life, but he also killed 2 of Jackie's friends that were in her car when the accident happened. Both of their lives changed that early morning at 4 a.m. Reggie had been drinking alcohol at a party. Jackie had been at a party also, 2 separate locations. But she left in a vehicle, and there was 4 of them in that vehicle. Reggie was impaired by alcohol, drove across the center lane, and hit Jackie's vehicle head on. Reggie lived through that collision. Of the 4 girls in Jackie's car, 3 of them died at the scene. Jackie did not die. Jackie lived through that collision. So not everyone that gets hit by a drunk driver dies. Jackie didn't die. Reggie was intoxicated and hit her vehicle collision, and 3 of the girls that were in the same car as Jackie, those 3 died at the scene. Jackie did not die. Jackie survived. But this is Jackie after the collision. Reggie hit Jackie's vehicle with a front-end collision. Jackie did not die in the collision. The 3 other girls in that car did. But Jackie's life did change forever. This photograph you see here, the small picture, is the one I showed you earlier of what Jackie did look like prior to the collision. The picture here is Jackie not only after the collision, but here in this picture she had also already had 50 plus surgeries to help repair her body. Jackie lost her eyesight. She lost her fingers, the use of her hands. She had to learn how to talk again, had to learn how to walk again. So Jackie did not die in that collision, but her life changed forever. So are we prepared to not walk away from our next collision? Because it's not a question of if we're ever going to be in a collision. It's when will we be in our next collision. And maybe we don't want to wear a seatbelt for ourselves. Is that being selfish? Because if we're killed in a collision, we don't care. We're not in pain. We're not feeling anything because we're dead. But who is hurt by that collision? Our family, our friends, our loved ones, our coworkers are the ones that are going to be affected by our collision. So if you don't want to put a seatbelt on for yourself, maybe do it for your loved ones because they want you there. They want you to walk away from your next collision. Thank you for joining me today in this presentation that was brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Transportation. Hopefully the next time you hop in your vehicle, you will take just a few seconds to buckle your seatbelt so that not only will protect you, but also your family, friends, and loved ones, because they are the ones that are counting on you to be there. I'm Kirk Van Pelt, Road Safety Specialist for the Nebraska Safety Council. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or comments at the phone number listed or via email kvanpelt@nesafetycouncil.org, or go to our webpage by scanning the QR code, or go to nesafetycouncil.org. Thank you.